It's 6 p.m. on Friday here in Korea. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Hwang Ji-hye, and these are the top stories we're following at this hour. Controversy continues over electoral rules as a parliamentary committee deliberates on the number of constituencies for next year's general elections. Korea's consumer prices grow less than 1% for a 10th straight month in September as the government dismisses deflationary concerns, citing core inflation. Plus, another deadly shooting in the U.S., this time at a college in Oregon. 9 dead and 7 injured as the gunman dies after a shootout with police. The National Election Commission is set to announce the number of local election districts that will be up for grabs in next April's parliamentary elections. We connect to our Kim Young-gil at the National Assembly to find out on a possible shifting of the political landscape in Korea. Myung-gil, tell us the latest.
Right, yeah, the redistricting committee under Korea's election watchdog is due to announce the readjusted electoral map on Friday. What we know is that the number of districts will be at least 244, but no more than 249. Currently, there are 246 constituencies and 54 non-electoral seats that compose the 300-seat unicameral legislature. After the committee's proposal is made, National Assembly's Special Committee on Political Reform will put up a vote on whether to adopt the proposal. The election watchdog plans to submit a final proposal to Parliament by October 13th.
Myung-gil, we understand that the rival parties oppose the electoral reform plans by the National Election Commission. Why is that?
Well, Jia, the main point of contention among rival parties is whether or not to retain the status quo on non-electoral seats. The ruling Saenuri Party wants to reduce the number of seats elected through proportional representation and also add more rural seats. Saenuri Party said if the party goes with the main opposition's demands to expand proportional representation, it's inevitable that rural regions will lose seats and be underrepresented. However, the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy claimed proportional representation is a constitutional tool that allows the socially vulnerable and professionals to enter politics. 25 lawmakers representing the rural regions demanded that the NEC committee's plan be scrapped. Rival parties hope to finalize the redrawing of electoral districts during the regular session of the National Assembly. This has been Kim Young-gil reporting live from Korea's National Assembly.
Now, shifting gears, South Korea has refuted a Japanese media report claiming that a loaded train was headed to a launch site in North Korea, adding there are no imminent signs of provocations. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Korea's Unification Ministry said on Friday that there have been no imminent signs of a long-range missile launch by North Korea, despite a Japanese newspaper claiming otherwise. Japan's Asahi Shimbun newspaper claimed that Seoul, Washington, and Tokyo spotted the movements of a freight train headed for Dongchangni missile site in the north. According to the report, the freight train appeared to have departed from a factory, but the details of the load have not been confirmed. South Korea and the U.S. are currently on watch against a possible long-distance missile launch around October 10th, marking the 70th anniversary of the founding of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party. Unification Ministry spokesman Chung Jun-hee called on Pyongyang not to conduct the provocation and emphasized that North's rocket launch will be a violation of UN Security Council resolutions, which banned the communist regime from conducting missile and nuclear tests. A Defense Ministry senior official indicated on Friday that the train's movements look to be part of normal departures that take place in the north, and that there are no signs that the train headed for the launch site. The official added that there are no imminent signs of a long-range rocket launch. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, still, speculation lingers that the North could be gearing up for future provocations, especially considering North Korea has told the UN that development of space-related technology is its sovereign right. Han Da-eun has the details.
The development of space-related technology for peaceful purposes is a legitimate right of a sovereign state. Our nuclear tests are self-defense measures to cope with the hostile policy and nuclear threat posed by the United States.
That was the main message North Korea sent to world leaders at the UN General Assembly on Thursday local time. making it clear that North Korea will forge ahead with its space and nuclear development. The foreign minister reiterated that Pyongyang is determined to protect its dignity by firmly responding to unjust acts against it. Lee also mentioned that there are more than 10 nations worldwide that send satellites into space, but the UN Security Council has illegally passed a resolution that forbids North Korea doing the same. He also said the current armistice agreement should be replaced with a peace treaty, and the U.S. should play a role in the process.
We strongly believe the best way to secure peace and security on the Korean Peninsula is to replace the armistice agreement with a peace treaty. This would redress the abnormal relations between North Korea and the UN.
The minister's speech comes as speculation rises that North Korea will launch a rocket around October 10th to mark the 70th anniversary of the founding of its Workers' Party. However, a growing number of experts say a launch would likely happen after the 10th, as no significant activity has been spotted at the North's launch site. Experts say it'll take North Korea at least 10 days to prepare for a launch. 한다은, Arirang News.
For the first time ever, Korean automakers Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors have ranked second in luxury sedan sales in the U.S. for the month of August. Industry data shows they sold a combined 571 Hyundai Ecus and Kia K9 models, ranking behind Mercedes-Benz, which sold more than 2,000 S-Class models. Hyundai and Kia's combined total overtook Lexus for third in July before blazing past BMW to rank second in August. Korea logged a current account surplus for the 42nd straight month in August. Data released by the Bank of Korea on Friday shows the surplus came to $8.5 billion US. This is $800 million less than the $9.3 billion surplus recorded in July. The on-month decline was attributed to a fall in the balance of goods, which narrowed over the cited period. In August, both exports and imports continued to contract from the previous year. Exports dropped nearly 12% on year, while imports plunged 0.7%. Korea's household debt mountain continues to swell, leading to a slight increase in the delinquency rate for loans extended by local banks. The Financial Supervisory Service says outstanding household debt rose by $6.7 billion US in August to stand at $454.6 billion. The agency says record low interest rates have stimulated the local housing market. The average delinquency rate was at 0.76% as of the end of August, up a 0.07 percentage point from a month earlier. Korea's consumer price growth remained stuck in the 0% range for the 10th consecutive month in September due to continuing low global oil prices. Kwon So-ah reports.
At 110.04, Korea's consumer price index rose by 0.6% in September from the same month a year ago. According to Statistics Korea Friday, it's the 10th straight month the country has posted growth in the 0% range since December's 0.8% rise, keeping concerns alive that the nation is on a deflationary track. Low global oil prices are seen as the main culprit of sluggish growth in domestic prices. Oil product prices plummeted almost 19% on year, influencing gas, electricity, and water prices, which fell by almost 10%. But the largest effects were seen in the first 6 months of the year, with numbers slightly bouncing back in the second half.
Because global oil prices began to plunge significantly in the fourth quarter of last year, we're seeing an improvement in consumer prices in the second half of this year as a base effect is appearing.
And when it comes to core inflation, prices that exclude the oil and food sectors, a growth of 2.1% was posted in September, remaining the same as August. Service prices rose similarly by 2% on year due to higher public transportation fees, and the housing market saw increases as well. The Ministry of Strategy and Finance said the government will closely monitor global oil prices and weather conditions for the remainder of the year and focus on managing prices closely related to daily spending, such as food, energy, medical services, education, and housing. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
The United States is in mourning after yet another senseless mass shooting, this time at a community college in Oregon. U.S. President Barack Obama sent his condolences to the victims and their families and lashed out at those continuing to oppose limits on gun ownership. Lee Soon has more.
On Thursday, in the usually peaceful city of Roseburg, Oregon, chaos ensued when a gunman opened fire at Umpqua Community College, killing at least 9 and injuring 7 others.
We just dropped everything and we ran. And when we ran out of the building, everybody went every which way. It was so chaotic.
The number of deaths is lower than earlier reports, but the community has been left in shock and despair as they mourn for the victims Thursday evening. American media reported that the suspected shooter was a 26-year-old man by the name of Chris Harper Mercer, but officials have not confirmed the report. The police said the shooter died after an exchange of gunfire with officers and added that it's too early to comment on a motive or whether he acted alone. The Oregon massacre is one of the many mass shootings that have taken place this year in the U.S., and it has once again fueled the debate on tighter gun control laws. U.S. President Barack Obama, at a briefing just hours after the incident, said thoughts and prayers were not enough to prevent the killings.
The United States of America is the one advanced nation on earth in which we do not have sufficient common sense gun safety laws, even in the face of repeated mass killings.
CNN reported that 4 firearms were found on the scene. Survivors of the rampage have been transported away from campus, while the injured, including 3 in critical condition, are being treated at a nearby hospital. Lee Soon, Arirang News.
And another Korean couple has been shot dead in the Philippines, raising the number of Koreans killed in the Southeast Asian country this year to 10. The increasing cases of armed attacks on Koreans has left expats in fear. Lee Ji-won has more.
A Korean couple was found dead on the outskirts of the Philippine capital on Friday. The murder reportedly occurred in the evening on Thursday or early Friday. The husband in his 50s was shot dead by an unidentified assailant inside the house. His wife in her 40s was supposedly shot outside the home while attempting to flee. The Korean embassy in the Philippines said a consular representative has been assigned to gather details about the incident. The couple's deaths come a month after the Director General of Overseas Koreans and Consular Affairs Bureau visited Manila to strengthen security arrangements for Koreans in the Philippines. With over 90,000 Koreans living in the Philippines and about 1.2 million visiting the country every year, the growing number of victims in recent years has raised security concerns. Lax gun control in the Philippines has been cited for the growing trend in lethal attacks. The latest deaths take the total number of Korean victims in the Southeast nation to 10 this year. 5 Koreans were killed in the first half of this year alone, while just last month, a businessman in his 60s was shot dead by a fellow Korean. And in August, another Korean couple was shot near the Calabar Zone area. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
The largest ever military World Games kicked open today in the central South Korean city of Mungyong. The 6th CISM World Games invited over 7,000 soldiers from nearly 120 countries, including the U.S. and China, to compete in 24 sports. President Park Geun-hye declared the start of the 10-day event less than an hour ago. The quadrennial event will also be brought together some defense chiefs from the participating countries. North Korea joined the CISM in 1993, but will not be taking part this year. Korea prides itself on the quality of its education system, but the nation's universities have been sliding down the world rankings this year. Only Seoul National University can still say it's one of the top 100 universities in the world. Son Jung-in has more.
London's Times Higher Education magazine has released its annual World University Rankings. Korea lost some of its sheen this year, with just one university making the top 100, down from 3 last year. Seoul National University slid from 50th to 86th, Postek tumbled 50 notches to 116th, while KAIST plunged nearly 100 spots from 52nd to 148th. As for other institutions, Hongkyungkwan University edged down 5 notches to 153rd. Korea University was placed in the 251 to 300 rankings bracket, while Yonsei University and Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology were ranked within the 301 to 350 group. Maintaining its top spot for the 5th year in a row was the California Institute of Technology. It was followed by the University of Oxford, Stanford, and Cambridge. Harvard dropped 4 places to 6th. Europe has taken remarkable strides forward over the past 12 months, eroding the dominance of American universities with a record number of institutions in the world top 200 at 105 compared to 87 last year. The Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich is the first institution from outside the US and Britain to make the world top 10 in a decade. The National University of Singapore was named the best university in Asia, rising to 26 overall in the global rankings. Peking University, University of Tokyo, University of Hong Kong, and Tsinghua University all landed in the top 50. 손정인, Arirang News.
And that brings us to the end of our newscast. More updates coming up at 10 p.m. Korea time, so stay tuned and goodbye for now.